Let's go.
All aboard. As some
All
might
aboard,
say,
choo choo.
on a train. They don't say that on a plane.
They just say boarding.
Close. And in a car, you only say that if you're like a fun parent figure, I think. All aboard.
Yeah, but I feel like there's
car.
light undertones of being pissed while you're saying that.
Yeah. My family always used to, they stole it from the popular show Everybody Loves Raymond, but what Raymond would say is 5 minutes AIS, which means ass in seat, so you have to be in the car
Okay.
in 5 minutes, and that was my family's
I feel
one.
like 5 minutes is too long to allow chaos to ensue.
Totally. That was part of the beauty of it. There's a lot of wiggle room to not be AIS in 5 minutes time. Yeah.
5 minutes is a lot of time to start a task.
Especially as a child.
Yes.
Like as a small child, 5 minutes is like, at that point, it's like a 75th of your life or something.
Yeah,
like,
you don't even have a concept of how long that is.
No.
That's when you're like, oh shit, I forgot all of my action figures and that I have to pee
and color or whatever.
And color.
And like feed the fish or
I want some Cheerios.
Yeah.
That's what 5 minutes means to a child.
But you also know though that your parents are going to have to keep coming through whatever area you're in and be like, come on, put on your Bermuda shorts.
Not
put
if
on
you
your
have
sweater.
like 6 kids. That's
I'm
my
gonna
biggest
4.
fear.
And they would definitely just kind of, I feel like the 5 minutes is a loop they do.
Okay.
Where they go back through the other kids, like, and they just do that.
Choo choo.
Yeah. Except in reality, in my house, it was always my dad, and my mom was, like, straightening her hair or something.
Okay.
So, like, she would call and be like, 5 minutes, but you knew she was going to take 10 minutes, which also introduced a lot of wiggle room.
Love that.
It was nice.
That's comforting to know that your mom who's shedding 5 minutes actually means 10 minutes.
Yeah. And you can always be like, your dad will get annoyed, but you can be like, me and mom both needed the time.
Yeah.
But you're just not doing anything.
Well, that just means you have an extra 5 minutes before shit hits the fan.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't even remember. Where were we going as children? It felt like there was just constant urgency to get in the car, but to where?
Community pool.
I don't have a clue. We didn't have community pool situations down south. I always wanted one. I thought that was pretty neat, but we didn't have it.
We were always going on a road trip down to DC.
Okay, that seems like a good... Kids, get in the car.
Kids,
we
get in
should
the
go on a road trip
car.
down to DC.
Yeah.
I'm like, we were always just going to soccer games and church. And like a family, my grandma's birthday. I feel like every day was my grandma's birthday when I was a child.
Like, you gotta celebrate every day when you're old.
When you're old.
Every day's a treasure.
That's true. That's so true. And, you know, speaking of days, how are you today? How's things?
We didn't even say hi or the name of our podcast.
Sorry I'm having just an enjoyable, organic conversation with you for once, you know? Sorry we dove right in and I was loving the temp of the water. I'm Sam Gibson.
I'm Jyotsna.
And this is Happenstance, a podcast where we explain our stance in what happens in a TV show or movie that we haven't seen. As I was saying, how are you today on this joyous day?
I feel great. I feel like I'm on a journey, and I'm excited about it, but it's just not going according to plan.
We've been watching too much Golden Bachelor lately, but it sounds like that. We can't include that, but maybe we can.
Maybe we can.
Golden Batch Part 2 coming to a store near you.
A.k.a. Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, those are stores. I guess Spotify is not a store. It's like a club because it's a monthly subscription, but...
You can buy stuff on there, too.
Individual stuff on Spotify?
I think so. Like, they have... Sometimes artists have, like, secret tracks.
Oh, they're like...
Gotta,
this is for the real fans.
Yeah.
And they send you an email that says that, and you're like, I'm not a real fan of, like, the Cold War kids or whatever. And
Yeah.
they offer you a vinyl deal. I always think I would never buy a vinyl. Like, every time I get an email like that, I'm like, Spotify doesn't get me at all.
Well, especially because if I had a vinyl, I don't have a record player, so I just put it on the wall.
Yeah, I would be more into if someone was to pitch me vinyl type art.
Yeah.
And I think that's, like, not cool of me, but I don't care.
What's going on with you?
I'm really feeling annoyed by someone close to me.
Damn, I'm the only one close to you right now.
I'm not naming names, but it's someone, it's someone with whom I've had a relationship for a while.
Oh, no.
But always kind of against my will for some reason.
Sounded like me.
And lately they've just been getting to me. But if it is you, which I'm not saying it is, the reason they're annoying me is because of their upbeat spirit.
Okay.
In general, wacky
That
demeanor.
is what I'm famous for, is my upbeat and wacky personality.
Ultimately, you come out looking better than me in the scenario.
Right, and you're the one who has to change in the end, I think.
Yes. Wow, you know what this is all reminding me of?
What is it reminding you of?
What I think the deal is in our topic today.
Planes, trains, and automobiles. Cute theme song. Happenstance.
I always feel the need. I've said it to myself like 3 times in the past 3 days. Planes, trains, automobile, and I want to say it German every time.
Automobile.
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
I made this comment earlier when we were writing this movie on the
during
board.
our business meeting
During our
about this topic.
Why is planes not spelled like trains? What's up with that?
That's the vagrancy of the English language. That's why the English language is a fucker, famously. And I don't have any others to compare it to, but people are always saying that, and I believe them. There's no reason.
Look, and that means ultimately that you have hope and optimism that things are better elsewhere, that you don't know any other languages, but you know that English is the bad one.
That is optimistic.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be so black and white as to say it's the bad one. Like, there's only one bad one, and it's all bad. But could it be better?
There's always room
There's
for
always
improvement.
room for improvement. Exactly.
Already off to some chaos today.
We are. Also want to share a thought I had previous to the podcast, which is that today I'm actually pro Elon Musk for once. But only because as we were setting up all the shit to podcast, I was like, I wish we could just do this in our mind. I wish we could just only do the whole podcast process brain alone.
Yeah, I wish we weren't talking out loud and we were just like
looking at each other.
Like Professor X, just a hand on the temple.
But I want to be recording it in my brain as well.
Okay, to peruse at your leisure.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to happen, but that's why I thought of old What's-His-Face, because of his Neuralink thing, which I don't really know what that is, but I feel like it's like you can send emails to your computer with your brain.
I wish we were doing this in the metaverse.
I thought you were going to say you wish we were doing this in a meadow and be like, not future tech evil.
Yeah, we were doing it backwards. Yeah.
I guess we're tech evil
today.
I
wish it was 1774.
Okay,
Pre-Revolutionary War.
If we were in that scenario and we had microphones in this little box, we would be like hot shit.
Wizards.
We'd be a big deal.
We'd get burned at the stake.
Oh, I was thinking, see what I would do is, do you know that Glenn Close movie where she pretends to be a man shoe cobbler?
No. What the fuck?
There's some weird Glenn Close movie, and I don't remember if in the movie the character's supposed to be a man, or if the character's like a trans man, but in like 1742.
Okay.
But it's something like that, but it's funny because it's like Glenn Close in like a 2012 movie.
Huh.
And they put like chin prosthetic on her and
Glenn
stuff.
Close needs to respect herself.
She's
always been like
she's always been
like that.
Yeah, she is. It's because she's not Meryl Streep and looks literally so close.
Yeah.
And they are so close, but she's just not Meryl Streep. But I respect Glenn.
And I don't think Meryl could wait, what was it movie she's in when she's like crazy and stalking that guy?
I don't remember the name.
Michael Douglas.
Fatal Attraction?
One of those. Yeah,
that's
Fatal
Sharon
Attraction.
Stone. Oh.
No. Yeah, no.
There just used to be a lot of movies where a blonde lady with hair like that stabs some guy.
Yeah. But Meryl couldn't do that, I don't think.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's different. Or the FX show Damages about her being a lawyer. Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
She's incredible. Ted Danson's in it.
Good.
Sexy stuff.
Ted Danson should be in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
I wish he was. I think, okay, I have not, to my knowledge, seen this movie. I think it was like on around me in the past, but I think if Ted Danson was in it and I knew a young Ted Danson was in it, I would watch the movie.
Yeah, he was killing it back then.
He was killing it. So hot, so charming. Oh God, why do we? I feel like I was trying to say something when we talked about Glenn Close, but I don't remember what. It probably wasn't important.
Oh, we were just talking about the revolutionary. We were podcasting pre-Revolutionary War.
Oh, this is stupid. I shouldn't have brought it back. I was just gonna say, instead of being burned at the stake in that scenario, I would pretend to be like George Washington.
Okay. I think I would be Benjamin Franklin.
Okay.
And we'd have a podcast still.
And no one could prove that we didn't look like exactly like Ben Franklin or George Washington because they didn't have any way to do that.
Look, I watched Hamilton, and what I learned is the founding fathers can look like anything.
I agree. I feel like it's the same as dinosaurs almost, where we like really can't know what
Maybe
they
they
look like
had
'cause we just had weird
feathers.
drawings.
Yeah. They all had feathers the whole time.
Yeah.
And
I feel like those drawings we don't even know if George Washington just had a gun pointed at the guy the whole time. He could have looked way worse than that.
he probably did. But I feel like men were like kind of less vain about that kind of thing.
They liked it.
Yeah.
I like the idea of them liking it. I wish back in the past when everyone was ugly, everyone was like, we love being ugly. I think we would live in a better society now if everyone was like, slay how you're being so ugly.
I like like in art history, they're always like, this painter was a keen observer of people, and what they meant was that he would paint them as ugly as he wanted.
And didn't care about the haters.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's risky because back then you had to get your portrait commissioned.
Mm-hmm.
So you can only make them so ugly.
And you have to spend months with them. Really, that's the part that really gets me.
That's crazy.
Like, you know when someone takes a bad photo of you? Like, imagine if they were doing that, but it took 3 months. And you had to sit there and, like, you kept looking at it and being like, wait, are you going to fix that nose
or is that my nose?
What's up?
And I feel like you can look in the mirror and kind of know, but it's like we just don't have as much knowledge we have more knowledge of our face now than we did back then.
Yeah.
And it's still hard to decide, like, do you just look like that or something up?
I know they had mirrors back then, but I imagine them just like looking in a pond.
I imagine tarnished brass
Yeah.
kind of vibes.
With like lumps here and there. Yeah, you just don't know.
Don't know.
Also, you've only seen like 24 people in your whole life.
That actually sounds like a great group in which to potentially slay. If it's only out of 24. I was going to say something like, in a group of 24, I think I could always be number 10. But then I thought about like all the people and I was like, well, maybe not if it's just random selection 24.
Well, I mean, if you were like a young lass who was getting your portrait commissioned, out of the 24 people you knew, I feel like 15 would be like your old relatives
who were like actively dying.
Yeah.
At age like 45.
Yeah. And then maybe like the other 10 would be like maids.
And like everyone's just going to act like they're ugly.
Yeah.
Because of like classism.
But then you have this painter come in and he's seen like hundreds of people. He's painted hundreds of people. And he's painting you ugly. What does that mean?
That's messed up.
Yeah.
But like then you're like, is he painting you ugly on purpose? Or is this great master you've hired just not that good at it? Or is it a stylistic choice?
Yeah. And if they paint you ugly, that means they're better or care more about their craft ultimately. So it's all complicated.
It's complicated. I don't know. I couldn't sit still for that. I don't think. I would hate it.
But you're probably getting your portrait commissioned so it can be sent off for you to find a husband.
That's so much work. That's what it feels like trying to get a good pick for the apps though too.
Yeah,
like
literally,
it's like so much work.
It takes 3 months and the right
at least
and the right hand.
And you can hardly ever find the right hand. And you can't yeah, you're right. I guess I'm pro technology today, actually. I'm hardly ever pro technology.
Imagine if you could just like instead of taking photos for your app, you could just do it with your mind. That's what Elon wants.
That's what Elon wants.
You just like cast your mind into the world and you find your perfect other mind.
Yeah. Oh, so are you saying we're it's not even physical anymore?
No. We're just two orbs colliding through time and space.
That's so beautiful. And you know what? That's actually what I think is happening to the two main guys in the film Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
I know we have to transition back, but that was insane.
I believe that. I think they're two orbs shining bright in their own ways, sometimes dancing, sometimes dueling, sometimes colliding. And that's what I think Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is about.
You gotta stop saying automobiles.
I know it's a bad look for me, specifically looking like I look, but it feels okay. This is controversial. It feels more natural
to just say
for me to say it with
German
the German,
accent.
not everything, but
Okay.
the word automobiles.
Mm-hmm.
That's for me. I said that rolls out of my throat. I love it.
Okay, well, you know who's doing automobiles right?
Who?
The Germans. They're fucking
Volvo, right?
They have
Datsun?
BMW, Volkswagen. I think Mercedes might be from there too.
I think so too, because aren't the Nazi cars Mercedes or something?
Those are the BMWs.
Oh, messed up.
Audis, I think, are also German, potentially.
That's great. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of cars.
They're freaking killing it. Volkswagen was the official car of the Nazi party, too, I think. It's Volkswagen. I like saying it like that.
No, it makes sense. And it's the wagon of the people.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
Mm-hmm.
That's how fascists start, is they pretend they're of the people.
The BMW logo
horrible.
is literally made to look like plane propellers because they were manufacturing airplanes for World War II.
Where did they make a damn train? Because then back to planes, trains, and automobiles.
Wow.
So much of our society boils down to just planes, trains, automobiles.
What if there's a boat?
Nah. No.
That was my main thought when
no.
I was trying to figure out what was up in this movie.
Why
like,
isn't there a boat?
There should be. They should be on a boat at some point.
That could be the sequel.
Okay.
Planes, trains, and automobiles, parentheses, and a boat.
Just one.
I can't think of any other. A scooter is a mode of transportation. The Disney light rail.
Monorail, yeah, that's pretty good. Also, planes and automobiles can be on a boat, but not trains. I don't think boats and trains can ever interact.
I've never seen an image of a boat and a train interacting.
They just aren't meant to be together.
You're right. I want to watch a video of like that, like where they're like a pig and a kitten are hanging out, but it's a boat and a train. Let's see that. This is gonna be a good one today, I can tell.
Totally.
So, how much do you know about this movie?
I only know that it's about Thanksgiving, or at least it's Thanksgiving vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And it stars Steve Martin, who I always had a weird crush on for some reason.
I don't even think that's weird. I think he's
Okay.
sexy.
Okay, then I have a normal crush on Steve Martin.
Okay, cool.
And John Candy, who I don't know if I've even seen in anything other than like sketches.
He's in this other Uncle Core movie. That's what I would describe Planes, Trains, and Automobiles as an Uncle Core type film called Uncle Buck.
Okay.
And my uncle was a big Uncle Buck head. I think he might have just been a big John Candy head. And that doesn't help me know anything about this movie, but like I said, I know there's a vibe here, and I think Uncle is that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I looked at the poster, and it looks like Steve Martin's kind of sitting upright and looking a little bemused and a little annoyed.
That's so Steve.
And then John Candy is kind of like flopping over a little and being silly and clearly annoying. That's what I'll say. There's a clear dynamic just from the
I
poster
agree. There's
alone.
a clear well, okay. I don't know much about John Candy. Things I want to say about John Candy off the bat. I love that he's like a fat guy and his last name is Candy. And I think the name John Candy is like sexy and cool actually too.
I think whenever you take like a word that's not a name like Candy, but then you slap like the most regular name.
What if my name was Sam Mushroom or something? Sammy Mushroom. You think I was so fun? I'd be like a cool pizza person.
Oh, I'm glad you went in that direction, not psychedelics.
I wouldn't ever be a psychedelics business owner. I'm too uptight for that to like. I wouldn't be able to sell. But a pizza person, I always have a grease stain on my shirt.
I think if your name was Sammy Mushroom, you'd have to like play Mario Kart a lot.
I'm open
that was
to
your
that.
whole thing.
I'm open to that lifestyle. If there's any incentive for me to just play Mario Kart, I could be corralled into doing that. Once again, today I'm pro tech.
Mario Kart is tech.
To me, that's tech. Yeah, that's honestly technology.
If Benjamin Franklin knew about Mario Kart, he just...
If Benjamin Franklin had a Wii...
different. Oh, man. We, the people.
I think we should have stopped at Wii. I do believe that's the technology we should have closed. We should have said we did it. And then shut it down.
That is literally what the metaverse looks like. It's just...
It's a safe space.
Yeah.
Like the Wii Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wii was fun too because you could just make yourself. You could make like a crude rendering of Jesus or like the sports star of your liking or like your neighbor who you hate. That was always fun in my family.
I would always just make myself and then with a mohawk. That's
okay.
all.
Was that like a deep-seated want for you? I could see you as a child wanting to be punk.
That makes sense. I really liked to take like the eyes and make them as far apart as you could get them.
Yes.
So they're like sticking out of the face.
I like that. That's a strong look. That's a stylistic choice, I would say, in the Meverse.
Yeah. Fish-like.
I like to do that kind of thing, but then be like, that's you to whoever I was sitting by.
Okay.
And then we like go back and forth and make each other look like ugly. I think that's
and
pretty
then you have
fun.
to name yourself like poo poo pee pee.
Yeah. Yes, that's you. Poo poo pee pee. That's awesome. I think that's something I miss about childhood is just that game. I wish it was appropriate to do with like your coworkers is to just be like, that's you.
Yeah.
Poo poo pee pee. Haha. Because like people would still be like, stop. Like there's a reason you're not allowed to do that in the workplace. It's because it's harassment.
But they'd be mad in the same way that I picture Steve Martin being mad at John Candy.
Just goofily.
Goofily.
And with style.
Mm-hmm.
I think Steve's like, ugh! But he's like, he's looking cool. He's looking self-aware while he's being outlandish.
Yeah.
That's what I think about Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think it's like cool that his hair went white that early.
Yes.
And he leaned in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I think if he had normal hair color,
he wouldn't be hot.
we wouldn't even be talking about him.
Yeah.
We'd be like, and with a name like Steve Martin, some guy with just brown hair.
Literally, Steve Martin is one of the worst. I hate 2 first name names. Like, that's the opposite of John Candy to me.
Yeah.
John Candy should be on, like, billboards.
That name's electric.
Yeah.
That name's seismic activity.
Yeah, Steve
vibes.
Martin is like you're listing people at a conference table and you're like, Steve Martin. Yeah.
But he had a shock of white hair.
Mm-hmm.
And so, therefore, he got to be famous. We did talk about this the other day, but literally, like, 80% of the SNL guys just are white guys with brown hair.
Yeah.
And I think Steve is a white guy with white hair. We haven't seen anything like that
That's
since.
diversity.
That's honestly diverse. A premature white-headed person who is still white is diversity.
Yeah.
And I do think we're all electrified by that. Like how the Game of Thrones girl who's got the dragons or whatever.
Daenerys.
If she just had brown hair, boring.
She has purple eyes too.
Okay. Okay.
She's like a Wattpad
like
character.
Elizabeth Taylor.
Sure.
That's what they say about Elizabeth Taylor. But then you look at a picture of her and you're like, I'm pretty sure they're just blue.
But also all the photos back then, they like picked the colors and changed. Like that's what Technicolor is. They like would take.
They were making up the colors?
Yes. Like Jimmy Stewart, for instance. I like if you watch a Jimmy Stewart like Hitchcock movie, it looks like they always give him like the lightest, brightest blue eyes ever. But I think he had brown eyes.
That's not real.
Yeah.
He had brown eyes?
I think so.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They're like, yeah.
Okay, so things have just been like this the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, technology is not at fault for our body
moral
image problems,
failings,
moral failings, racism. It's just always been this way.
And that's why hats off to Steve for just being a naturally white-headed man.
For keeping it natural. We don't applaud men enough for their natural beauty.
And you know, he aged so gracefully. He still has white hair and it suits him still.
Because there is a sweet spot some people hit where it's weird when you look old too early.
Yeah.
But then some people who hit that like you're elderly at 40 then look good old.
Yeah.
And the same just the next 40 years of their life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that can be a blessing.
Or I feel like sometimes people who look young for way too long then suddenly get old like a banana.
Yes. Or like, okay, I hate when people look like old little children. Like Rory Gilmore, Alexis Bledel.
Yeah.
I think is the prime example of that because she looks the same as she did when she was like 14, except her skin's crepey and looks thin. And she just looks like she's like a sick child, but she's like a 45-year-old woman.
She should get some artificial gray hair streaks or whatever.
And just lean in to being a haunted little old girl.
Mm-hmm.
That's so scary to me. One thing I'll say that I like about my physical body, etc., is that I think I didn't look like a child for that long, but I just don't think I have it in me to look like a creepy old child.
Well,
and I'm proud of that.
I think I'm gonna hit creepy old child. I
it's
feel that
coming
for myself.
you. Okay.
I feel that for myself.
Okay.
I'm not happy about it, but you're
gonna be a creepy old child.
That's just the future, and I have to accept it.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. You have other things going for you, but I need that. I need to know that, like, no, you know what? No one's perceiving me as a creepy old child. I only learned actually that Steve Martin is in this movie from you the other day. I didn't know a damn thing about this movie except that John Candy's in it. And because of that, I decided to disregard the fact that Steve Martin's in it. Because in my mind, I thought it was the least sexy Ghostbuster. The one who's... Wait, who do you think the least sexy...
Dan Aykroyd?
Yes! Okay, yes! I didn't know his name. I've been thinking about him all morning because I was like, what is that guy's name and why is he the least hot Ghostbuster? But he just is.
He's also got other things going for him, but yeah.
What else does he have going for him?
Didn't he die? I have to say that.
That's going for him.
I just have to support him verbally
I feel
at
like he
this
didn't
time.
die.
I'm pretty sure he's dead, dude.
Look, I think it's weird he's the least sexy Ghostbuster because Bill Murray famously is the top guy who looks like shit.
Yeah.
But weirdly, his vibes are sexier.
He's just the most charismatic man of all time. Like,
and he always has like a hairy mole on his face, but is still
look,
like that.
I think Bill Murray can believably be with like a 9.5 blonde skinny woman.
And he was in every film
Yes.
made between 1965 and like this year.
And somehow I was always like, okay. Like, I was okay with it, actually.
See, I was always like, I can tell this guy looks like shit. But no one else seemed to
but
notice.
I feel like it's like he doesn't even notice.
That's the secret.
Yes.
That's literally, I don't know what the book The Secret's about, but the secret should be
just that.
don't notice
that
if you look like shit.
Yeah.
And you will be able to go through life excelling.
Yeah.
I want it to be true for women and non-binary people.
I don't know if
I fear it's
true
only true for the Bill Murray type, for SNL type guys, brown hair, white guys. But I like it. I like that idea. I also feel like the off-brand Jeff Goldblum Ghostbuster and the black guy Ghostbuster are hot.
Yeah.
Like, they're the two hottest ones. But Bill Murray, because of his sexual charisma.
Bill Murray gets to be like the Casanova of the group.
What is
like,
up with that?
That's like all he does is fuck.
And then there's Dan. I don't have much to say about Dan, you know?
He's he's the intellectual one, right? Is that his deal?
I thought the fake Jeff Goldblum one was because he has glasses. But I guess Dan sometimes has glasses in Ghostbusters.
He does.
I don't know. But to me, I just couldn't remember his name, and I was like, he's the unsexy Ghostbuster.
He's like the verse intellectual.
Wait, what do you mean? Like you can like
versatile.
toss him around in the
Because
street?
sometimes he has glasses and sometimes he doesn't.
Okay, I see.
He's riding the middle line
of being an intellectual and just then also being a guy who can't see.
Yeah.
There's overlap there, but it's not always a 1-to-1 thing.
No.
Totally.
I do get fooled though, you know that about me. When someone has glasses, I'm like, intellectual.
That's an intellectual.
Alert?
You do, but I think that's worse for you than it is the non-glasses folk of society because you also wear glasses.
Yeah, but I'm like, that's why I'm smart, is because I wear
because of the
Yeah.
glasses. Oh. Huh. I feel... Okay, like, do people have glasses because they were reading too much? Or they can't read, that's why they need glasses?
I guess if you can't read because you need glasses and then you just go through your life not reading because
Dumb.
you didn't, yeah, then you're dumb.
But, like, what if you don't want to read because you need glasses for it? I don't know how glasses work.
I don't know either.
Another thing I'm proud of myself for is my good vision. Hashtag blessed.
That makes sense.
I can't imagine the glasses lifestyle.
My parents would just blame me for having glasses by saying it's because I read too much, like, in the dark.
Okay. But that's like kid go to sleep
Okay.
type. That's
They meant, like, go
propaganda.
outside.
That makes sense too. Famously, I think 2 good things to say to your kid is go to sleep and go outside.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we've lost as a culture. You know when I think we had it?
Before phones.
In the era of planes, trains, and automobiles. Okay, I do want to talk about when you think this is. Do you know when the movie came out?
I think it's in the 80s.
Okay, I think that it's like late 70s / at the latest like 1981.
Okay.
Because I think everything in it, I'm picturing it all being shades of like tan and brown, but not in like a sexy modern athleisure way, in a way that was like just 70s core.
Okay.
And I imagine John Candy wears like a Scottish Princess Diana type golf hat in it a lot. That's like just brown.
Yeah, like Caddyshack vibes.
With the tuft at the top. I think basically this movie is going to be an amalgamation of every movie I can think of that's like
the uncle's
an
like
uncle core movie.
Totally.
Yes.
Well, the reason I think it's more late 80s is because I feel like Steve Martin's character is harried businessman type of like the 80s.
That does feel like that's when we got that.
Yeah, the business
the 80s.
boom.
Okay. See, I think it makes more sense for Steve to be playing that, but the unsexed Dan Aykroyd, nah.
Yeah. Oh, right. That's your...
In my movie, Dan Aykroyd is in
right.
it.
I forgot Steve is literally not in your movie.
Yeah, I just decided to disregard that fact because I just couldn't.
That's the only thing I care about because that's my crush. That's why.
That makes sense. Well, see, I think by there being a crush in it, for someone who likes men romantically, it's not Uncle Core. I think an Unclecore movie should have as many guys indiscriminately between the age of 30 and 50 who look like shit as possible.
Guys.
Some guys. Yes. That's what I want to see. And some babes.
I think Steve Martin's good at writing the line of that too. Like, he can be a guy's guy, but then be like hot but not even know it.
I think he knows it.
Okay.
I think as someone who, is in the East Side alt comedy scene, I think if Steve Martin was walking around the halls of UCB, he'd be slaying and he would be like evil.
Okay. Well, that's Bill Murray, but he's not hot.
He's not hot.
And he's doing that too. And that's the thing, you can never tell. You can never tell with guys.
You can never
you just
tell
don't.
with guys. Can't trust him. Can't live with him. Can't live without him. I also think this movie is late 70s because I am imagining it to be from that time where literally all white people age 30 to 50 could just be 55.
Okay.
Because I think in the 70s you were like a teen, and I think teens were sexy in the 70s. Hate to say it. I think they were. And then you turn into an adult, and as soon as you turn into an adult, you wear like a sweater vest and you get that like grandma haircut. And you kind of just eat burgers and look like shit.
That's my experience with the 70s too. But I feel like they always look like that, but then it turns out they're 27.
Exactly. I think our prolonged adolescence didn't exist yet.
Yes.
And I think you just instantly became old.
Yeah, as soon as you
weren't
were
a teen.
Literally as soon as you're 21 or whatever.
You're ancient.
Yes.
Like Billy, what's his face, and When Harry Met Sally. I know that's a
Billy
90s
Crystal.
one, but like whenever he's playing a 21-year-old in the beginning of that movie, I'm like, that's fucking real. That's what 21-year-olds look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy to me. I think that makes it Unclecore too, that everyone in it just looks like they could be an uncle even if they're like 21.
I mean, they could be. Things just moved faster back
They
then.
did. It was different. We didn't have enough time to transition into being aunt or uncle age. It was just right away.
But no one was using skincare products.
No, they definitely weren't. They never even heard of that. That's crazy.
The ozone layer was still intact.
Not for long.
Yeah, they were killing it as we speak.
But it got closed up again.
Yeah.
That's one of the only things that ever got solved, actually, in the whole history of the world. Was the ozone layer.
Thank you so much, Elon Musk, for that one.
Did he do that one?
No.
Who did that one?
Just us.
I think it was literally a regulatory agency.
Yeah. They just like banned certain aerosol products. Back when
regulatory agencies regulated.
Right.
That's what this movie's also about, I think. This movie's about when America could kind of function. I think, okay, so one of my standing theories is that I think the 80s is actually the start of late capitalism.
Yeah.
And I think that's when we had early computers, but it's also, I think this movie happened right before the invention of Diet Coke.
Whoa.
And I think after Diet Coke is when everyone became really obsessed with being skinny, and then we have less fat guys we all love in movies like John Candy.
John Candy also died from being fat.
That used to have Chris Farley too.
Yeah.
That used to happen. We used to have a fat guy who would burn bright and then burn out. And now
they're all losing weight and then flopping.
Freaking Kevin James is too slick. Like he's not. He was the closest I could think of a John Candy modern guy.
The guy from Mike and Molly, so skinny now. so skinny.
Ozempic.
Yeah.
Do you think John Candy would have done Ozempic?
He actually was trying to lose weight, unfortunately, when he died. I looked at his Wikipedia
I think he said unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Also, I would hate if I was dying of being obese and on my Wikipedia page it was like, he's trying to lose weight, but it still got him.
Yeah.
Poor John Candy.
Things are better in a lot of ways. Life can just be prolonged. But at what cost?
At what cost?
Yeah.
At what cost? Yeah. Also, I do think there'd be some freedom in just looking like you're 45 immediately after college.
Yeah. That's improv vibes to me.
To just look old ahead of your time. You're going to be better at improv if you just look old.
Yeah.
Or like, I always think about, speaking of Ted Danson earlier, Cheers. Everyone in Cheers is supposed to be like 25.
Yeah.
They're looking like grandma, grandpa.
To me, most of it, though, is the hairstyles back then.
Why was that the thing?
I don't know. But it's also confusing because now the only people who have those hairstyles were like young in the 80s. So it's like they just kept the same look.
Yeah. The same strong look. And it's a strong look, but it's not flattering to most, I would say.
No.
Or it just ages you up. But maybe that's what people wanted in the 80s so they could be respected business people.
Yeah, everyone wants to be grown up. That makes sense, I guess.
That makes sense.
Also, I think it was a strong contrast to the hippie look.
Yeah, that makes sense. Those are the only basically 2 looks I can think of from this era.
Oh, I thought you meant of all time.
No. But from like the late 70s, early 80s, yes, I would say. That's how I imagine.
I feel like back then you
the white
really
people.
had to pick your lane and like stick to it.
But I think everyone actually looked kind of just more medium because there wasn't all the documentation and all like the aesthetic call out and like you couldn't aspire that much. Like I think everyone was wearing the same pairs of jeans from the Kmart kind of situation.
Yeah.
Except at like Studio 54. I think everyone was just the same except at Studio 54.
Yeah, they had no choice but to buy the puffed sleeves. That was also like towards the start of like manufactured clothing.
Fast fashion.
Yeah.
We didn't have it. Okay. One thing I did want to say about this movie is I bet they're dressing. I bet you turn this on now, you're like, John Candy's rocking fit after sweater fit.
Okay, but I bet they only carry like a small briefcase around and somehow
No luggage.
no luggage.
I agree. And then they have fit after fit.
Yeah.
I agree. In my mind, though, that is also just what being a man is like, even today. You can somehow only have 4 things and just bring a knapsack and be stunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But back then they also had like the shiny loafers.
That's stunting.
That is their travel outfit.
You could light a cigarette with your car.
We could still do. Don't we have like cigarette lighters in our car still?
No. They don't do that anymore. They don't make the fire anymore. You can just plug like a battery holster in them because that happened during like the adaptation between like we just use it for USBs versus cigarettes. They made a hybrid one that you could put a phone charger in.
Mm-hmm.
And now you put your finger in there, it doesn't even hurt.
Damn.
I know.
That's devastating.
Some older relative as a child had the cigarette lighter car, and it was famous to be like, put your finger in it. And then the adults would be like, don't put your finger in it. It was hot in there.
We definitely had that growing up.
Yeah. That's a lost art.
Yeah, to burn yourself as a child. You just can't
Using
do
a
it
cigarette
anymore.
lighter in your car because that's how important cigarettes are.
And then I think pre-cigarette lighters was like car phones.
Pre?
I think so.
I thought cigarette lighters in the cars was first, but they lasted from like the 70s to like
possible.
modernity.
But I feel like car phones are like
That was 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Same for the briefcase phone. That's like late 80s.
Briefcase
yes,
phone?
where it's a mobile phone, but it's just literally a whole briefcase that you have to carry around. It's like a satellite phone. It's the first one ever for like evil business guys.
I'm gonna add that to my plot for Steve Martin to carry.
Okay. Actually, that would rock.
Yeah.
And I think he would be making fun of the concept of the briefcase phone. So I think in reality, you pull the headset out of the briefcase. But I like the idea of Steve Martin walking around the airport holding an entire briefcase open, and it's like kind of flapping, and he swings his head around and is being so Steve.
That makes sense. And he's whacking people in the face, but he's so important that
Yeah.
they just need to get out of the freaking way.
They need to get out of the way. And that's like funny for Steve. The thing about Steve is he's so Steve. The thing about Dan Aykroyd, he's an everyman.
You're right.
He's just any old uncle.
Dan
If Steve was your uncle,
eel. Yeah.
that would be electric. But yeah.
you wouldn't. I feel like if Steve was your uncle, you wouldn't ever have a conversation with him because he'd just be telling you what's up all the time.
He'd be wowing everyone.
Yeah.
He wouldn't talk to the kids except to give you $1 and a
pull
tip.
a nickel out of your ear.
Yes. Okay, sorry. One thing I hate about uncle type guys is when they're trying to do non-consensual magic to you. And I like magic.
You love magic.
But I don't like non-consensual magic
I think
about
what
like
it
my
is
ear.
You think magic is sexy, so if an uncle is doing it to you unprompted,
You're literally right. I feel like I just unlocked something. You're so right. That's like, yeah.
That's a violation.
It's such a violation for an uncle to do unwanted non-consensual magic on you.
As someone who doesn't think magic is sexy, it's fine with me, uncles.
You're fine with an uncle pulling a nickel out of your ear?
Yeah, I'm like, whatever.
I'm like, don't have these little designs on me in my ear. Don't be thinking, oh, there's the kid. I'm gonna do this ear like, and then they want a reaction from you. I hate. You already know this about me, but I hate being in situations where people want a reaction from you, like at the haircut place.
Yeah.
Whenever they're cutting your hair and they're like, "Are you so excited? Do you love how it's turning out?" You never do, but then you have to put on a little show for this lady you're paying like too much money to cut your hair.
That's the thing about uncles in general, though. I do think uncles want reactions out of you in general.
Stop.
It's because like they're not a family member that gets to teach you like life lessons, and you're like not gonna open up to them about anything.
No.
So all they can get is a little like, haha, cool uncle alert.
Uncle.
Yeah. It's hard being an
Whatever.
uncle.
I agree.
We've talked about uncles a lot on this pod for some reason.
Because they're a looming figure in the life of every child, I would say.
We all have them, but there's not enough is said on the topic, I
No.
think.
And I do want to go on the record and say, like, I'm from a family of good uncles. My uncles aren't trying to do that nickel out of your ear shit, but I'm just being around other people who I know are uncles and they're doing that shit.
Yeah. I don't know. It is like such an uncle thing because it's like you're trying to
Interact with the child, but you
Interact
don't
with the
know
child,
how and
and
can't.
and you're not responsible for the child, so like you don't have to learn really. You just learn a
Right.
little trick instead.
Okay. I'm like pissed off now thinking about when people try to pull a nickel out of your ear. Or got your nose. I fucking hate got your nose.
I'm imagining you as like a 3-year-old just being pissed the
I
fuck
didn't
off.
like it. To my knowledge, I think I've never been down with got your nose.
Do you like the one where they grab it, pretend to eat it, and then poop it out?
No! Ew! That's so a violation. To pretend to poop your nose. That would piss me off.
And then put it back on your face.
Disgusting.
and then say, now you got a poopy
Poop
nose.
Disgusting, banal, uncreative. I hate it. I hate it so much.
It's not chic.
I literally only like the thing I famously like, which is this. Ow!
You have to explain that to the audience. What are you doing?
I'm doing the thing where I stick a microphone in my eye, but in between my fingers, and so then my hand hides it, and it looks like it's stuck in my eye. But if you do it with a fork, incredible. But I like that one.
Because it's not doing it to other people.
Exactly.
It's just doing it to
It's
yourself.
doing it to yourself.
Yeah.
And even if it's not funny in the moment you doing that, it's funny that you're like some random adult who's fake sticking a fork in their eye just for their own fun.
Right.
But
And
the nickel thing's for their own fun too, except you're making some kid be involved.
yeah. Well, ultimately, the joke is on yourself if you're just pretending to stick a fork in your eye.
Yeah.
But
That's a better joke. That's all I'm saying.
you also hate pranks. This all makes sense for you. Yeah.
People need to have schemes that are more valuable for society than pranks. If prank types put that kind of planning into something else, that's all I'm saying. Imagine.
You know, I also think the same is true for like surprise parties though, because I don't like surprise parties, and it's because they're asking for the reaction part of it.
I like a surprise party if everyone wants to throw me a surprise party. That's very flattering. But then you do, I think, need your real friend or whoever to tell you there's a surprise party before.
Okay.
And then I'm open, and I'm in that scenario. I love to go and be fake surprised. Let's go.
Right. Or if I just know something's happening and then whatever it is a surprise or whatever.
And I feel like in most scenarios you can figure out if a surprise party is happening for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all very, very illuminating stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've kind of kicked around the characters a bit. Do you feel like we should get in the?
I think we should probably get into it. Now I feel literally upset thinking about the ear magic stuff.
Do you need to take a lap?
I almost feel like yes. I almost feel like I need to go take a walk so I'm in a better mood instead of thinking about everyone trying to. Yeah, it is pranks and it's foolishness. And I'm pissed off at every time I've experienced pranks and foolishness. So I do just want to say at the top of this summary, I don't actually think anything I'm about to say is what happens in this movie. I'm basing it primarily on vibes.
Yeah.
I'm basing it on the Uncle Core thesis. I think it's going to be an amalgamation of all that kind of stuff. So I think this movie happens in vignettes over the course of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's.
That's like the Netflix movie The Holiday.
With Emma Roberts and that blonde Australian guy. Famously one of the only actors who's a blonde guy. And I don't know.
Is that true? Is that a fact?
He's one of the only actors who's a blonde guy.
Yeah.
That guy, Owen Wilson, David Spade. Name another one.
Legolas.
That's brown hair ass Orlando Bloom.
Yeah.
In a white hair wig like Steve Martin or Daenerys. Doesn't count. Doesn't count.
Fine.
Fine. There's just none. There's just only brown hair guys.
It's because I can't say any of this, but like we don't like blonde men just as a society.
I think you can say that.
Okay.
I think you're allowed to say that.
Okay. Wait, also there's that guy from Veronica Mars. You know what I'm talking about? The blonde guy.
The main guy?
No, there's like this side. Oh, the main guy's also blonde.
I wouldn't say he's blonde. I thought you were gonna
There's
say
like
he's
a
blonde. I wouldn't say
side.
he's
There's
blonde.
a side guy.
The like kind of skeezy guy.
Yeah.
What is that guy's name? I feel like, yeah. We don't even know his name either.
No, because he doesn't matter.
No, because
And
he's just some blonde guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Not in this movie. This is a movie with 2 brown-haired men. And I think that we start out with these 2 guys in Columbus, Ohio. For a long time, I kicked around, like, are they both uncles? Is one an uncle? Is one a dad? Are they brothers-in-law?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wanted there to be I think in the real movie, I sense a family dynamic. But
interesting.
in my movie, they're 2 adult roommates who, even though they're, like, 30, look like they're 45.
Right.
And
Columbus ages you.
it very well might, but I think you like it. That's why I wanted them to be in Columbus. Because I imagine both of these men have good self-esteem.
Okay.
I think that's one of the underpinnings of this film.
Wait, so you don't think Dan Aykroyd, like, resents his place in life and living with his annoying schlubby roommate?
I think mine is we're not going that deep with it.
Okay.
Like, I think he's, like, annoyed with John Candy. But I don't know if he resents his place in life. Like, I don't know if it's that serious. Because even though he looks like he's 45, he's just 30.
True. You can't resent your life at age 30. That's just too sad.
I hope not.
Yeah.
And I think this is ultimately, like, about fun hijinks and heartwarmingness or whatever.
Yeah.
But between 2 guys. And so I think that they can both, like, want bigger things. But I don't think that's what it's about. Their dynamic as adult roommates is, like, Dan Aykroyd is the most, like, 1980s job I could think of as being a traveling salesman.
That's good.
And
we
so
should
I think
do that
he does
more.
that.
Is he selling, like, dictionaries? That's what I'm obsessed with back. They would sell, like, dictionaries and, like, globes.
That feels like what would be in a movie. Is that yeah. I don't know. Do you want him to sell globes or dictionaries? You can pick.
I think he sells both. I think he starts with, like, you got a passion for linguistics, lexicography, and then if you're like, no, then he's like, well, then I got something for you, world traveler.
Oh, God. Ew. Actually, never mind. You can't pick. In my movie, he sells something that's like
Vacuums.
bacon mitts. Okay? Just something boring. He's not the fun. John Candy's the fun one.
Okay, you're right.
This guy is normal.
Okay, I think I like that we're now revealing you think dictionaries are fun.
Well, in a 1980s movie, if you're a globe or dictionary salesman, that's fucking silly. That's funny. Like, that's like a hoot.
Okay.
But if you're selling like
Vacuums.
crock pots,
Insurance.
boring Dan Aykroyd. Sorry. I didn't know I felt this way about Dan Aykroyd until this morning, and I don't know why I do, but he's just not doing it for me. And I think, again, John Candy's out here just blowing him out of the water, I think, in this movie. Being
He just has a strong thing.
He's killing it. He's killing it in his lane. So I think their dynamic is Dan Aykroyd's like being harried and putting on his tie and running out of the house, and John Candy's like laying on the couch but with his feet up on the top of the couch and having like a stain on his shirt and like giggling. And that's what he does all day.
Is that like an 80s way to be, or like 70s way? Like, did 70s characters have like stains on their shirt?
I think they did. And an Uncle Core movie, I think
I
they
picture a
should.
70s guy, they're always like buttoned all the way up.
You think they're looking right?
Even if they're schlubby, they're just wearing like loose khakis or something, but they're still wearing khakis.
I think he's wearing loose khakis, but I think he's just got a grease stain on his shirt. I think in this movie, they eat a hot dog outside in the cold like 3 times.
That's so Midwest.
And I think Uncle
True.
eating a hot dog in the cold, all uncles are going to love that. I think they're eating hot dogs and like smoking a cigarette in like gloves.
Okay.
Fingerless gloves.
That's romantic.
Yeah.
To me.
But it's not, it's platonic.
Okay.
And that's what I'm fucking talking about. This is a movie about 2 begrudging friends. So I think it's like the holiday season, and Dan Aykroyd's character is like, I'm going to go to the Great Lakes region to both sell some stuff and visit members of my extended family. And John Candy's like, I'll come too. And Dan Aykroyd's like, you weren't invited. And John Candy ignores that and does something really fun. He's whimsical instead of having that conversation.
Okay.
And so then I was thinking, like, why do they have to take 3 forms of conveyance to get where they're going?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it has to be because it's snow.
Yeah.
So I think, like, at first they try to ride a plane and then it snows, so they get, like, a layover or something. And the place I imagine them getting a layover, even though it's not near the Great Lakes region, is Atlantic City.
Look, they gotta blow up some cities.
I think they do. I think that's an important part of the movie. Is at first you're like, Dan Aykroyd hates John Candy's super fun ass, and then they go to Atlantic City and John Candy's like shining. He's smoking cigs on the floor. He's charming the grandmas. And
What
Dan
if
Aykroyd gets
John
drunk and loves
Candy
him.
is the one who like gets them to Atlantic City somehow?
You think it's a scheme?
Yeah.
He's like, before we take this guy to see his family, he needs to blow off some steam.
Yeah.
Maybe he does.
He's like, Dan, you've been so serious.
He's taking care of him.
Why are you acting like you're 45 when you're just 28?
Well, we're just two young bucks.
Yeah.
And then they go to like a casino full of older women. That's
Yeah.
pretty funny. That feels like some John Candy shit to do. And I don't know him, but this is what I imagine.
I bet John Candy would kill it among the older women.
I think he definitely would.
Yeah.
Okay, I do think out of Dan Aykroyd and John Candy, who do you think is sexier?
We've already talked about how Dan Aykroyd's not sexy.
Well, I'm out here positing. I think John Candy's a little sexy.
That's crazy, but
I think it's strong eyebrows and sexy vibes, actually.
okay. I do think anything goes in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
It's like we were just told who's sexy and who's not.
And I think kind of any guys be like, take it or leave it.
Mm.
It just was. At least in the media of the time. Okay, so they're going to the Great Lakes region, and I think we're primarily, Dan Aykroyd's like, I'm going to see my family, and I do not want to see John Candy's gross-ass family.
Wait, does he already know them?
No. I think it's just like they're a looming threat in his mind.
Okay.
And John Candy's like a chill, fun guy, so he's like, yeah, we'll go focus on your family. Maybe we can stop by mine. Maybe. And Dan Aykroyd's like, I would never stop by your family. And John Candy's like, ha! And I think they have a name that implies they're gross, like the Fockers or like the Clumps.
Mm-hmm.
But what I came up with is I think that it's the Bedwetters.
Is that spelled like bedwetters with a W or like pretending to be French?
Your call. I thought about doing capital B-E, capital D, the Bedwetters.
That's kind of funny. That's funny.
I think it's funny. I think it's a good SNL type 70s
Okay.
thing is they have a whole dialogue that's like, well, if you want to go to the Bedwetter clan, and then Dan Aykroyd's like, the Bedwetter clan? And he's like, the Bedwetters. And they just say it back and forth weird.
Bedwetta.
Yeah, and
okay.
they do that for a while, and then, but it's just clear, like, Dan Aykroyd's like, I don't want to go see a bunch of bedwetters, and that's the vibe. But John Candy doesn't care because he's so devil-may-care and fun. They get stopped over in Atlantic City, and then they can't go to the original plan for Thanksgiving, whatever it was, so they have to go to, like, Dan Aykroyd's trashy sister's house via train or car. I didn't pick which conveyance, because I don't think it matters. I think it's a mix of planes, trains, and automobiles. Not one
and
after
you don't
the other.
think they matter? That's a bold statement to make about the planes, trains, and automobiles.
I think they're just traveling. I think at some point they might ride a motorcycle with a sidecar together.
Wait,
but
which
that
one's
just
in
didn't
the
make it to the
sidecar?
title. Obviously, it's Dan.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Because John Candy's sexy.
Yeah.
He's the one revving the motorcycle,
Mm-hmm.
and Dan's in the sidecar pouting.
Okay.
I think that's their dynamic. But I think, so we go to Dan's sister's house, but it's like, Carol's so trashy. And they go to Carol's house, and she has like some kids and is divorced and like smokes inside. And I think her and John Candy have an electric sexual connection. And I think Dan's being like, oh, I hate you, John Candy. And now you have an electric sexual connection with my trashy older sister. And Dan's pouting. John Candy's killing it with the kids. He's loving the delicious, like, cranberry. I think this is a movie where they kick around the topic of cranberry dressing.
I do like the idea, too, of, like, Dan just not being able to bond with his nephews. Because
Yes.
that's about, like, Uncle Cord, too, is, like, trying to bond with your nephews.
And trying to learn. This movie maybe helps you learn how to be a better uncle.
Finally.
Through John Candy.
I hate to say it, though, but I
Yeah.
feel like John Candy might try to pull a nickel out of someone's ear.
He might. But, look, as long as it's not mine. I feel like John Candy, I want to see him doing more stuff like playing tackle football with the kid, but then he really tackles the kid. But everyone
Okay.
likes it. And, like, he's just a big glump.
Okay, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I want him
yeah.
to be a little sloppy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Totally. I think Dan's a little, like, prissier and, like, he won't roll around in the mud.
He won't have any fun.
Yeah.
And, like, all John does is have damn fun.
I do think at some point they should get into a fight, John and Dan.
Totally.
Where they do roll in the mud together.
And then maybe that's after that they have to ride in the motorcycle and John Candy drives it and Dan Aykroyd pouts in the sidecar.
Covered in mud.
Yeah. That's a good, I like that. I like the Uncle Core. That's Uncle Core. So I think at the end of the Thanksgiving escapade, Dan Aykroyd's sexy, trashy sister's like, I'll see you at Christmas. To John.
Naughty.
And we're like, yas, girl.
Yeah.
Yas, John. Vignette closes. And then next up is Christmas. And I think John Candy's all geared up to see the sexy sister. But this time, she shows up with some, like, motorcycle guy who's a dick.
She would.
But spoiler alert, I think that's where they get the motorcycle. I think they do, like, some kind of adult prank on the sister's, like, temporary shitty boyfriend that ends up, like, getting him out of the picture and making her like John Candy more than him again.
They're just meant to be.
Yeah, I think they are. I think they really are. But because they do an adult prank, that's inappropriate. So then I think they also have to flee family Christmas with Dan Aykroyd's family. And I think they go see his weird uncle who's doing the thing where you go fishing in a hole in ice.
Ice fishing.
Yeah, in like a little shack on the
That's
the
so
lake.
fun too, because then you can have like some cracking ice shenanigans.
Yes, John Candy's like doing the thing where he walks and his arms go all the way out and he like falls like a cartoon kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe one of them has to drag the other one across the ice. I think a moose could be there.
Ice fishing is so about male bonding.
Yeah, and I think in that one they like go from family Christmas, which is chaotic, to Dan's like, well, we have to go see weird Uncle Lester on the frozen lake. And they go, and I think Uncle Lester's vaguely threatening and like Dan's scared of him, but then naturally, who does he love? John Candy's fun self.
But I feel like then the uncle thaws a little, and then he and Dan have a bond too.
Maybe so. Maybe that's it. John's the vehicle through which Dan can bond with his own family.
Exactly. I want Dan to have a better relationship with everyone, including his trashy sister.
After the uncles rolled through
John. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then you're going to love this part because it's time for freaking New Year's. And I think for New Year's, there's some other problem with whatever form of conveyance. I don't know.
Sled.
Maybe they hop on a sled. The train breaks down, whatever. But I think it ends with John Candy being like, let's go to my family's for New Year's.
Finally.
And then we get there and Dan Aykroyd is so charmed by the bedwetters.
Okay.
Like, I think they're like the sweetest, most normal family ever. And then I think John Candy has a sweet, normal, hot sister who Dan Aykroyd loves.
Okay, I was also imagining the bedwetters to be like secretly upper middle class, nice big Home Alone house.
Exactly. It's exactly like that. Basically, we have this setup the whole time of the bedwetters, these greasy, nasty crazies, and then we get there and it's perfect. It's like how Jerry from Parks and Rec's family loves him and is all like beautiful and suburban.
And how Jerry has a giant dick.
Yeah,
I feel like John Candy has a giant dick.
All of that is true. Dan learns it, and that's what really cements.
Dan learns about his friend's dick finally.
At some point,
that's male friendship too. Is knowing about your friend's
dick. They know about each other's dicks in this movie. To the uncles. All the uncles, you say they know about each other's dicks. The uncles would say, yes! Wassail! I think someone says wassail in this also. Okay. I don't know who. But yeah. So then I also think
John Candy's whole family can like sing Auld Lang Syne.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
No fucking
yes,
way.
and I think they like hold real candles with fire.
Yeah, and they sing it beautifully like a gospel choir type.
And Dan Aykroyd's like so moved, and it's like the whole time, like John Candy got it the whole time, and he's this great family. And then I think it ends with some kind of line like maybe Dan Aykroyd's sister shows up at the end of all this and he doesn't know she's coming, and John Candy's like, well, you know she had to come back for this. And then John Candy's like, who would have thought? The two of us? And then you think he's talking about their relationship being beautiful, but says something like, the two of us getting down with each other's sisters.
Finally.
And then the movie cuts and we love it. And maybe, as in my prediction for Flubber, I like this in an old movie, we see credits that have photos of them and the sisters' weddings.
Great.
Yeah.
I do think they need to have the New Year's kiss moment.
They can both have it.
They're both macking out with each other's sisters.
Have it. Yeah. And I think that's also Uncle Core family values, et cetera, for your friend to get with your sister. That's nice.
I'm going to add to that. I think they're on a boat, all of them together for New Year's, watching the fireworks over the lake.
Whoa.
Yeah. And finally get a boat
over the Great Lake.
Yeah.
They're on the Great Lakes.
They're on the Great, yeah.
Why not?
The greatest of the Great Lakes. Whichever
Let's
one
get
that
them on
is.
the boat.
Yeah.
Let's see, I hesitate to put them on the boat at the end because I do think this is a movie where John Candy inadvertently beats the shit out of Dan Aykroyd. So I think if they're on a boat,
they have to fall out of the boat.
Yeah.
But that's cut to credit.
Cut to credit.
Macking on their sisters. One of them accidentally elbows the other one off the boat. Cut to credit.
Same shit, different day. Yeah. These two in Columbus, Ohio are always going to be doing. Yeah. But that's what I think happens in planes, trains, and automobiles.
Freaking cheers to that.
Thank you. Okay, now I feel upbeat again. Actually, I think that was a heartwarming plot. And I'm over it now after we talked about the uncles getting the nickel out of your ear. Now I'm back.
Well, because you realized that John Candy would have done that, and then that put a smile on your face.
It made me like the idea of it because of how much I like my idea of John Candy in my mind. Yeah.
If my Dan Aykroyd uncle tried to pull a nickel out of my ear, I would not be on board with that.
He wouldn't even have his heart in it, I don't think. He'd be phoning it in.
Or he'd be like too into it. Like that's his one trick.
Like I think if Dan Aykroyd's your uncle, maybe he's a professional magician. And you're like, why are you bringing work home with you? We can't talk about this again or I'm going to get pissed off. I need to be in a good mood for your happenstance. We can't talk about this. Okay, my ears are open.
Okay, so mine is like pretty different, mainly because I think that Steve Martin is in it.
No, I checked after you told me that and after I came up with this whole plot. He is.
Great.
But that just didn't work for me today.
That's fine. That's fine. That's what this podcast is about. It's reinventing history.
You're
sometimes improving, sometimes not. Okay, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I don't think Steve Martin and John Candy even know each other at the beginning of this movie.
That's hijinks.
Yes.
That's pretty much hijinks, yeah.
So, okay, Steve Martin and John Candy, it's the day before Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the Los Angeles International Airport.
You think they're in LA?
Yes, at the beginning.
Okay, what is John Candy wearing?
John Candy is wearing, like, not a Hawaiian shirt, but, like, some kind of patterned short sleeve button down.
Is he on the way to Hawaii, do you think?
No. So, okay. Just let me get into it. Okay, so Steve is like a high-powered career guy, clearly has a stick-up-his-ass high opinion of himself. And he has to go home for Thanksgiving. They live in Chicago.
Great Lakes region.
I don't know why we both thought
that's
that, but
another top uncle type spot.
Yes.
This is the Great Lakes region.
Because they gotta eat chili at some point in this movie.
Yes. That's the same as my hot dog on the street.
Yeah.
What's up with that? And for some reason, I think when I want to imagine going to a family Thanksgiving, I don't have any relatives there, but I want to go to the Great Lakes.
That would be so lovely.
It would be lovely.
Autumnal.
My outfits would be stunting. I would be in the sweaters. I'd be in the khakis.
Plenty of room to play Frisbee.
I feel like you can go play pool in a bar and it's not crowded up there.
Yeah. People love the holidays up there too. They take them seriously.
Totally.
Okay, anyway. So he's going home to see his family for the first time in literally years.
Is it his family? Does he have his own family? Or it's like his mom and dad and et cetera? He's an uncle.
He's an uncle. So it's
not
like
a dad.
It's his siblings, and he has a dad who just recently got married to like some new woman.
Love when that happens.
Yes. And he has like a big loud family that he just doesn't.
He's too stuffy for them.
Yeah, he doesn't want to deal with it.
I see where John Candy might come into play.
And then John Candy is just this like sloppy dude who sits down next to him at the airport and then starts like talking his ear off.
Okay.
And Steve's like, I don't want to deal with you. And then somehow this leads to John like just getting Steve out of the terminal gate area.
He gets him out of the terminal. He's like a sex trafficker. He manages the feat of getting him out of the terminal.
Maybe he accidentally maybe somebody else takes Steve's suitcase. Blah blah blah. Something. There's some reason why Steve has to go running off. John Candy with him, and then when Steve manages
unrelated. Do you like when someone talks to you at the airport, or are you out?
I don't know. It really depends on who, because you want them to be hot.
It's never hot.
No,
it's never
and you
don't
want it to be John Candy. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think
I want to talk to John Candy because also air travel sucks. Like I'm always in like a bad mood, and you're like just being all anticipatory.
And you look like shit usually.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be talked to when I look like shit.
One time I was on a plane out of LAX and I got sat by this guy he was giving uncle. He was like could be the third guy in this, and he was getting super drunk, and then he revealed to me he was the superintendent of the LA Unified School District.
That might have been a useful relationship for you somehow.
I don't think it was. I was like, I should try to get him fired was kind of my takeaway on it. And he was getting drunk and kind of hit on me, but also wanted to talk about like the buses are overcrowded. And I just wanted to die.
It's always someone like that who talks to you on the plane, really.
Yeah.
It's never anyone who... That's the thing. That's the thing for Steve Martin, too. Like, I don't think he's so stuffy that he wouldn't talk to anyone at the airport, but he doesn't want to talk to John Candy. Okay, and I think that's totally fair.
He would talk to a business contact or a beautiful
woman. Yeah.
A beautiful redheaded woman.
He might even talk to Dan Aykroyd in the airport. Maybe.
Oh, I think but I think their talk would be boring, and it'd be like what I imagine comedians in cars getting coffee is. Boring.
Jerry Seinfeld, come on the pod.
Just two old guys talking. Jerry, actually, like literally, if you want to come on the pod, come on the pod. I have stuff to say to you.
I have a lot of things I would like to learn about Jerry Seinfeld, who I already think I know a lot about.
I think you do too. We're just gonna have different dynamics with Jerry. Mm-hmm. I think you can do an interview, and I'm gonna try to kind of like I'm gonna neg him. I think.
Okay. I want to get him in trouble. I want to ask him about controversial topics.
Okay, I do too. But I just want to blatantly disrespect him on the podcast. Jerry, if this is turning you off,
coward.
Just kidding. Yeah, coward. Okay. We can both switch between good cop and bad cop with Jerry on the pod. Okay, cool. Good. Glad we have a plan in place for when that inevitably happens.
So John Candy somehow gets Steve to leave the gate area. Yes. So then, of course, by the time he gets back, he's missed the plane, and he goes to. Back then, you could just wander in and out of an airport. That was the beautiful thing about that time period. But so he goes to the gate agent, and he's like, "Please, like." I need to be on this plane. Like I promised my family, and I don't actually want to. So this is too convenient for me. That's the other problem. But the gate agent's like, sorry, all the flights are booked. I mean, it's Thanksgiving. Yeah. And then John's like, well, I mean,
let's get on a train.
I feel bad. Like I'll rent a car. And they start driving.
Who's driving?
John.
Why is it so fun to imagine him driving the conveyance?
Because he's like eating a hamburger and like throwing the wrapper out the window.
Yes. and burping and using the cigarette lighter.
Yeah, he's
and
doing too
singing.
much while simultaneously. Yeah, he's singing for sure.
I think he's definitely singing.
Definitely singing.
And Steve's just trying to talk on his business briefcase phone.
Yes, I think Steve is trying to conduct business during this road trip.
I think it should be on a briefcase phone that's too big for the car, and so because that's what Steve's good at, honestly, physical comedy.
Yeah, but also pretending to be serious when he's not.
And upset.
Yeah.
Shout out to Steve.
Yeah, Steve's bringing a lot to the table here. We can't deny.
We can't deny.
And of course, rule one of road trip movies: the car breaks down, kind of in the middle of nowhere, maybe like New Mexico or some similar shithole.
They're covering America.
Yes,
in this movie.
I think this movie's about America.
In the end.
Yeah.
In the end, if it's not about love, that's what it's gonna be about.
God bless the use of it. No, it's about love too.
Okay.
Surprise! It's about love and male friendship in America.
In America. To uncles.
And transportation.
And transportation. That's what America's about, is transportation.
That's what it should be about. But the infrastructure.
Well, I think it's about planes, not trains anymore. It's just about planes and automobiles.
Yeah, I miss trains. I
wish that was all we did. Or, this is too off topic, but do you know that movies, the Golden Compass series?
Of course.
Love. Where they just ride in hot air balloons.
Zeppelins. It's because we don't have
enough. That's huge appeal to me.
The problem is we don't have enough helium because it keeps escaping the atmosphere, and we can't use hydrogen because it freaking explodes.
All I have to say to that is shout out to helium for escaping the atmosphere. Great job, helium, getting away from this toxic planet.
That's some Elon Musk core.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So their car breaks down in the middle of nowhere. They have to stay overnight at a farm or something, and obviously they have to share a bed.
I want John Candy to snuggle among the sheep.
Okay, I like that. I think they start out sharing a bed, and then Steve's like, I can't do this. Because John Candy's like snoring and rolling around too much.
He's definitely rolling around. I think there should be, like, John Candy should spoon him in the night and whisper sweet nothings in his ear while he's asleep. And Steve's like homophobic about it, like, ah!
Right.
Yeah.
If you're a businessman in the 80s, you're a homophobe. That's just true.
Just for sure.
Yeah.
And I think if you're John Candy, you're a guy who's comfortable with your boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who has, like, graphic dreams of being like, ooh, yeah, sugar. Like, I think he says stuff like that to Steve Martin's ear. I also think this era is important that men are calling women, like, sugar.
But the women are loving it.
But that's because the movies are only made by men.
That's fact. And sometimes a woman will slap the guy, but that doesn't mean she doesn't love it.
She still loves it if she does that.
In fact, if she slaps him, they're gonna bone.
Odds are it's on.
Yeah.
That's why we live in a toxic society.
I know. But I do wish as women we were just allowed to slap people more, too. And have it just be cool and sexy.
I think I'm, like, against violence in all forms, but I'm gonna say I think women should be doing the nickel trick more. Maybe that's actually fine with me.
Okay, maybe that was your whole problem with the nickel. Like if
I need to see a strong woman
aunts and uncles were evenly across the board pulling,
I might feel different about it.
Yeah.
If aunts were also pulling nickels out of kids' ears and getting their nose. I feel like aunts are just chilling more.
I would love to be an aunt. My sister needs to have a child. Not for her, for me.
For you. I still just want the kid to be, like, pretty old, though. And when your sister has a kid, you're supposed to, like, be there. I don't want to see my sister be all, like, tired and then just see some baby.
You should join, like, the Peace Corps or something while your sister's
so that I don't have to be there.
But you're doing, like, important stuff.
Yeah. If only I could be a Doctors Without Borders. I can't. I don't have the skills. I'm not even a dentist.
I'm just imagining all the Doctors Without Borders admitting that they all have siblings who are giving birth currently, and that's why they did it.
I feel like if you're a doctor sibling, though, you actually have to be there more. And maybe you're, like, in the hallway of the delivery room.
Because the perineum's going to tear. And
right.
You gotta get in there.
In a space with a medical professional that's not your own, it's good to have one in your corner.
So much responsibility. I feel like as an aunt, you have to, like, put out there early that you're a total fuck and you can't be trusted.
Like you're the fun drunk aunt or whatever. Yeah. I can be trusted. People just know that about me.
What a shame.
I'm responsible.
Maybe you should start doing the nickel trick to everyone.
They'll be like, don't call her to come. Don't tell her to come. Disinvite her. You're right. Look, Thanksgiving's coming. And I do have second cousins who are, like, 4.
Great place to get started.
Yeah. One thing I am excited to do that I think this is Uncle Core of me is my cousin has a son named Walker. And whenever he's old enough to talk, I'm going to be like, hey, Walter. And he's going to be like, my name is Walker. And I've been planning on that one since before he was born.
I'm going to be like, Walker, more like Crawler.
That's mean. I'd be like, don't talk to Walter like that. Like, I do like to have a running kind of, like, pinch poke joke with the kid, but just not actually pinch or poking or nickel in your ear based.
Okay, so just like verbal abuse.
Just a light Yeah. It's the same as That's You. The thing where you be like, that's you, pee pee poo poo face. I'm comfortable with that dynamic, and I like it, and I thrive in it, and I will engage in that with a child. My other second cousin nephew style one would always try to call everyone a poop sandwich for like 3 years. I thought that was a slay.
I think all of that is just preparing you for the realities of upper elementary school.
Me?
Yeah.
For when I inevitably get sent back to do it all again. That's a good movie. That sounds like an 80s movie where for some reason me as an adult has to go to upper elementary school to get my 5th grade diploma.
But the good news is you've been practicing your bullying on your nieces and nephews.
I'm going to hit it out of the park. I'm going to hit it out of the park. We got to do your plot.
Okay.
Where did we leave off?
They're sharing a bed in the bar.
Oh, yes. Love.
Okay. So then I think like the farmer's weird. I think just like in yours, John Candy is more able to interact with just regular folk.
Anyone.
Than Steve. Yeah, with anyone than Steve can. But Steve just still thinks he's like superior.
Yes.
And they don't like know much about each other at this point, or because they are totally strangers.
I like that they can have getting to know you chat. I think that's pretty exciting.
I think road trip movies in general are about getting to know someone.
Mm-hmm.
And like being in a car with someone is like one of the hardest things that we as human beings have to do.
Have set up for ourselves.
Yeah,
totally.
Whether it's like your random Uber driver that you don't know, or just like your
someone
extended family.
Yeah.
I'm always wary of who I'm stuck in a car with, even if it's just like 45 minutes stuck in traffic to Santa Monica. Like, oh man,
that's not a game.
It's serious.
That's a long
stuff.
part of your life. Yeah, I hear you. 45 minutes can make or break a relationship.
Yeah.
Wait, but they're in the bed with the farmer.
They're in the bed.
And the farmer's in there.
The farmer's in there. I think they're trying to figure out if there's any other car they can rent in this town.
Okay.
I think, look, when we're saying automobiles, I think the plural is serious. I think they're trying to ride a tractor a little bit. They're riding every kind of automobile you can imagine.
Okay, you're broadening it. I like that. I like them on a tractor.
Yeah. Just for a couple towns over.
Okay.
And then eventually Steve Martin's getting more and more stressed. He's like, if I can't see my family, I at least need to get back to Los Angeles for important business reasons. I can't be stuck in the middle of nowhere.
If he doesn't make it to his family thing, I think he should be in a Succession thing. And if he doesn't make it to family Thanksgiving, he gets kicked out of the will or something.
Okay. I do think it's kind of serious like that. Like he hasn't seen his family in a long time. He hasn't met the new wife yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I like the idea of whoever Steve Martin's dad is being kind of smarmy, rich, evil.
Sure.
Yeah.
But they are also loud, and maybe they're gangsters. Maybe they're Chicago gangsters.
And that's like fun role for Steve Martin's family to be. And he can get there and start doing the accent, and he hasn't had the accent the whole rest of the time and can act really like troubled by it. He's good at that kind of thing.
And that way, like, so I do think John Candy has a secret, which I will reveal later. But I think Steve Martin that way can also have a secret, and his secret is just that his family is gangsters.
Okay. And they can eat a sausage dog on the street. Okay, wait, now I'm hung up on John Candy's secret. You have to keep going.
Then eventually John Candy is like, wait. I feel bad. This is all my fault. Because I do think it is all John Candy's fault.
Yeah.
I think so far, all of the transportation errors have been
on the back of John Candy.
Yeah. The car breakdown, his fault. Maybe he puts diesel into the car.
Because he's busy yammering.
Gas. Yeah.
He's talking so much he doesn't look at the right gas pump. Yeah.
He can't do anything right. But he is full of love, ultimately. And so eventually he's like, okay, I got a plan. You know how in movies they don't ask what the plan is until like they're mid-plan?
Yeah.
So they go to what looks like the middle of nowhere, and he's like, we're going to catch a train. And Steve Martin's like, what?
They're going to jump a train?
They're going to jump a freight train. But then we get a moment of peace. They're on the freight train. They're watching the American countryside go by.
Yeah.
Maybe they are both drinking beers or something on the train.
Yeah.
And we see the night sky. It's just a nice, lovely time. And then they get to St. Louis.
So can I make an addendum for the train?
Yes.
I would like on the train, John Candy's like, we're going to jump a train. And then Steve Martin does it lithely in one swoop. And then John Candy can't do it. And he keeps kind of jumping at the train and falling off. And then Steve Martin has to do the thing where on the train, he puts out the hand and helps him on the train.
Yes.
And that's like a sweet moment.
Yes. Especially because they both need to get to Chicago, but they don't actually have to go together. And I do think maybe earlier Steve Martin tries to ditch John Candy.
Yeah.
Like maybe he tries to pay the farmer off to like give him the tractor like early in the morning.
That's funny. And that's so evil.
Yeah.
Steve Martin would do that.
Yeah. But it just doesn't happen. I don't think John Candy like finds out about it and is offended or anything. Like I think John Candy's also up and he's like, so we're going?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I don't think John Candy should like be hurt.
Yeah. Ever.
Protect him.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
So then they get to St. Louis and like it's the morning of Thanksgiving. And St. Louis is not far from Chicago, I don't think. And I don't know if this is true, but in my happenstance
it's a little far,
true.
but why not?
Yeah. They have to take a boat. a steamer up the river
Okay.
to go to Chicago. I don't know if that's possible, but
I don't think it is, but I love the imagination.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I like St. Louis. To me, when I think of like an American road trip movie, they gotta go to St. Louis.
See the arches?
See the
Is that what they
arch.
have?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
just
One
the
arch.
one. Just the one.
Just the one.
But gotta go check it out
Okay. So they look at the arch.
and salute
Then
it.
they get on a steamboat.
No, they don't. They go to the arch, and then Steve Martin starts asking him questions like, "Okay, so where does your family live in Chicago?"
Mhm.
John Candy's like, "Oh, they live
They don't live in Chicago?
Yes. And then Steve Martin finds out that John Candy was not actually supposed to be on his plane to Chicago. He was just going to go to Vegas and just blow off the Thanksgiving weekend in a poker tournament.
Okay, that's pretty cool and fun.
But that's just because actually John Candy has nowhere to go for Thanksgiving
And
because he doesn't have a
sad.
family and he's sad. But Steve Martin's pissed off. Like,
Right.
he's just like, so all of this happened because of you and you weren't even supposed to go to Chicago.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And this is almost, we're verging into psychological thriller, dare I say.
Yeah, he's like, why did you follow me to Chicago? And then John Candy's just like, because I'm just all alone, and I wanted to help
And
you
I just
get
saw
to your
this
family.
guy who
Yeah,
loves his family, and I said we could be two guys going to see a family.
but he doesn't know that Steve Martin doesn't love his family, and is like a bad
family
son.
member.
Yeah, bad family
Yeah.
member who's like estranged. He's being like family love.
Family first.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Steve Martin's like mad, and I think they like split up. Obviously,
And they're sad though.
they're sad.
Yeah.
But then maybe they meet up again under the arch. And maybe, I think John Candy comes up to him and he's like, Steve, look, I'm so sorry that I imposed on you, but I want to get you to your family. And I managed to find this like steamboat captain
Who's going to take us there?
But I'm not even going to come. Like,
yeah.
you can go forth
my
by yourself.
gosh. Is
and
he
I'll
going to
just-
wave to him from the dock?
no, Steve Martin changes his mind. He's like, no, you know what, John? No one should be alone for Thanksgiving. Come spend Thanksgiving with my mafia family.
Aw.
So then they finally get to Steve Martin's family, like, just as the Thanksgiving turkey's being taken out of the oven. They burst in. And Steve's, like, scared, nervous. Like, he hasn't seen these people in a long time. And he's just been bad. Like, he hasn't been keeping in touch right. Maybe his father's, like, old and sick, and he does want to see him, but he just, like, feels so bad and guilty and, like, just too business-oriented.
A water nerves.
Yes. But then he gets there and he goes in and suddenly it's like it all clicks into place. And this is his family and he loves them and they love him.
That makes sense. I think it should, in this one, I think John Candy should still be, like, he should come in and kiss everyone on the mouth and everyone should be like, yes.
Yeah. Everyone's loving John Candy. He fits right in.
I think people should just love, once again, Steve through John.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I think that's true too.
John might be the embodiment of love. I think in both of our plots.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, totally. And I think Steve, like, yeah, he feels warm and he feels happy John Candy's there actually, and they just have a lovely Thanksgiving.
I also want John Candy to fuck the dad's new hot young wife.
Maybe they have a
be
vibe.
fine with it. I think everyone should be fine with it.
Or maybe it's like, yeah, or like the dad's nurse, just someone. He can fuck someone.
I think John Candy needs to get with ladies in this movie.
And
However,
then
it's
Steve,
done.
I think Steve, to our surprise, like doesn't. He just doesn't get with any ladies in
He's
this
just
movie.
a guy. This isn't about his sexuality.
Yeah.
This is about, dare I say, just his gender.
Yeah.
Okay.
And his most important relationship is with a stranger at an airport.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also Uncle
that's
Core.
a lot to think of. That is Uncle Core.
'Cause uncles
that's
love-
business Uncle Core.
Uncles love like coming home and being like, I met this guy on the plane.
Yeah, that makes sense. And planes, trains, and automobiles. Great way to meet some random person briefly. Have a little...
Have a soul connection.
Two orbs.
Two
It's
orbs.
all back to the orbs colliding, smashing, smushing, dancing, fighting. Yeah.
Warning. Now's the part of the episode where we at least kind of reveal what really happens. Spoilers ahead.
Okay, we're back, baby.
We're back.
And I have with me the Wikipedia plot summary of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
And I ate a hot dog in the interim.
So this movie stars Steve Martin and John Candy, as we know.
Boo.
And Steve is an advertising executive on a business trip in New York, eager to return to his family in Chicago
Great Lakes.
2 days before Thanksgiving.
And you got major city, even if it's just the wrong coast.
Yes.
Yeah. New York's a better place to be a businessman.
True.
Anyway, I think. Yeah.
I wanted it to go through all of
the biomes.
Yeah.
Biomes but the climates, the temps.
Yeah. I wanted to
hear
see
you.
some farmland action. I wanted some desert.
That's what a road trip movie should be about.
Yeah.
I hear you.
He's late to the airport because someone takes his cab at the last second. And then at the airport, he meets the guy who took his cab, John Candy, obviously.
Yeah.
Who is, get this, a shower curtain ring salesman.
Let's go! I knew that was an 80s job, and it's a silly one. I could never even thought of shower curtain ring because that's like so. I would have had to be in the 70s to think that one up myself. Wait, did you see what year it came out actually?
1987.
Late 80s.
Oh, and we didn't even talk about this, but it's by John Hughes, the guy who did The Breakfast Club.
Yeah. That changes everything.
That does change everything.
Wow.
But then also, not only did this guy steal his cab, now they have to sit together on the plane.
Bosom buddies. Yeah.
Yes. But because, you're right about this, because of a blizzard in Chicago,
naturally,
the plane was rerouted to Wichita, Kansas.
So farm. That sounds farm to me.
Yeah, that sounds pretty farm. So they have to stay there overnight. And Steve Martin has a wife, Susan, who has to call.
Classic wife name.
Yeah, he has to call her and tell her what happens. And
okay, good. So he, like John Candy can be in the shower singing and just.
Yeah, and they have to share a room.
You're never gonna believe this guy, babe. Yeah.
They're forced to share the last available room, and after a series of mishaps involving beer being spilled on the only bed and Dell leaving the bathroom a mess.
They have to share a bed.
Yes, they have to. Yeah, he loses temper of the irritating behavior. I guess Steve in this is like he's
pissy.
mad. He's angry because of the snow still being a problem. Steve gets them train tickets to Chicago.
Okay,
both
nice.
seats in separate cars, and then it breaks down near Jefferson City, which I don't even know where that is.
I think also Kansas.
Missouri.
All right, Missouri's involved.
And then Steve and they just can't stay away from each other. Every time Steve gets mad and tries to leave, he sees John Candy struggling, and he's like, "I gotta help this guy."
He sucks him right back in.
Yeah.
That's John Candy for you.
And then they get on a bus and go to St. Louis.
There's a bus.
Yes.
I guess that's an automobile.
That's an famously, yeah.
Planes, trains, and buses.
Yes.
Not the same.
Well,
Okay.
also, I mean, there's a cab. There's plenty of. There's a rented
They're just using
car.
conveyances.
Mhm, yeah.
Nice.
And so they're going to St. Louis, which randomly I thought as well. John Candy raises cash by selling curtain ring samples to passerby as earrings.
I bet he does that really well. I bet he sells the hell out of those as earrings. He's
Steve-
probably talking to ladies during that too.
He's probably doing such a. He's probably instead of pulling a nickel out of the ear, he's probably holding
a
up
shower curtain ring.
a shower curtain.
And you know what? I'm fine with that. If someone wants to hold an accessory to my ear, they're welcome.
That's because you love the gays.
It is. It's because I do love the gays, and that's the gays are not pulling a nickel out of your ear.
No.
They're being like, what if you put this on?
Yes.
That's helpful. That's productive. Thank you. Thank you to the LGBTQ plus community.
And then Steve Martin accidentally offends John Candy over lunch, and the men part ways again, which I would like to see.
I
that
need
scene
more
as well.
information. How is he going to offend him over lunch?
I feel like the idea of John Candy being offended by Steve Martin is one that I had not considered in this movie.
I feel like it's that Steve Martin calls him like dumb or something, or is like, you eat too much chili.
So then at the St. Louis airport, Steve Martin tries to rent a car, but it's not there for some reason.
All right.
Whatever. He tries to book a taxi. He just keeps offending people, and they don't want to help him out.
Okay.
Then
Opposite of John Candy.
Yes, John Candy manages to rent a car and then takes Steve Martin with him. And then after nightfall, John Candy drives on the opposite side of the freeway, and then they almost die.
That's John in the car for you.
And then John's carelessly discarded cigarette sets fire to the car.
Fuck yeah. And you know he lit it in one of those good car cigarette lighters.
Yes. And then Steve initially gloats, thinking that John is liable for the damage until he reveals he used Steve's credit card.
That makes sense. That
Yes.
makes sense. And Steve would gloat.
Yes.
Steve, that's gloating is not likable good behavior.
Basically, they keep having to share rooms at various places, and then they get to Chicago the next morning. Blah, blah. Keep running into problems. Finally, Steve thanks John for his help getting home.
Okay.
And then he leaves. But then he's like,
where's John going?
That's the thing. Then he realizes, wait, John doesn't actually have anywhere to go. Does he? And then he goes back and finds John at the train station, and John reveals that he's a widower and he doesn't have a family.
He's a widower?
Yes.
That's
and he's
like this as sad as it could even be.
not only that, he is homeless as well.
Why? Oh my god. That's horrible. That's so sad.
Yeah. So then Steve brings him home for Thanksgiving
a homeless
dinner.
widower.
Yeah.
That puts the shower curtain ring salesman thing in perspective.
I mean, you're hitting the road, at least. It's better be homeless if you're hitting the road,
You're
selling
right.
shower curtains. An item you will never possess because you don't have a
You
shower.
don't have a shower. That's so sad for John Candy.
Yeah.
All right, so then Steve invites him over with his wife.
And that's the end of the movie.
My biggest complaint here is that John Candy, for some reason, I want him to be getting some in this movie, and he's just not.
It doesn't seem like anyone is because there's a wife involved. And I think she might be like one of the only women in the whole movie.
That makes sense. I caught myself doing this as I was making up my plot. I was like, I'm introducing them straight getting some because I just think there needs to be some women in this. But I figured there's not. Uncle Cor.
I feel like I weirdly got a lot of specific details correct.
You did. Who knew it'd be Missouri centric? And why would you route a plane from the Great Lakes region to Kansas?
I'm sure they show like a picture of the weather map and then there's a giant storm cloud.
Giant. And I bet they did want to do like Hicksploitation.
Totally.
Like you said, where there's like a weird creepy farmer and stuff. And I feel like they definitely were playing that.
I don't know if you saw the poster for this movie, but I would like you to look at it now.
Okay, I'm taking a look. Okay, I love that John Candy's wearing like a heeled Ugg boot.
He's also wearing the puffiest jacket I've ever seen.
And it's blue. Okay, this isn't late 80s color palette for sure. Not what I was imagining.
And you know what? John Candy looks more dressed for the weather, so he's winning ultimately.
He's winning. Well, in Kansas, I think it's hot. I think you'd wear just a suit in Kansas.
Sure. I don't know about Kansas. I don't know anything about Kansas.
Well,
is that
give
it?
some love to your uncle.
Bye now.